Hello everyone, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming Whirling Duels deck list. We're doing this on stream. Hi guys. So, what is happening right now? For Valentine's Day, there is a new holiday format where basically each of the Direwolf Digital developers, some really big names and some really fun small ones, including a friend of mine, are basically all of the developers for Direwolf Digital have basically, well, it's not all of the developers, but some of the developers for Direwolf Digital have released their own particular decks that they want to play, these particular pre-con decks, and the format of the upcoming event is that everyone gets to play these pre-con decks. I can't remember if it's random order first, or you get to pick first, and then once you get them all, you'll get them in random order. But either way, you will get to play each and every one of these if you play in the event, and there are a lot of really cool ones to go through. So I thought what might be fun is if we went through each of the decks and we played them once in ranked, just to sort of see how they measure up. These are pre-con decks, so they're designed to be a little bit... They are designed to be a little bit limited. They actually do have some weaknesses. There are ways that you can improve upon these decks. They are not designed to have like all of the power cards in them immediately. Nonetheless, because these are decks that basically people are just sort of like offering for like really fun play, they should have some pretty good play to them. They'll have a solid curve, they'll have a really reasonable amount of interesting threats and interesting cards that they're taking advantage of. And one of the things that they'll really do well is show off some of the Dusk Road and Omens legendaries that I think have been really undersold. And that's a theme that I was noticing throughout all of these deck lists. I'm all about showing off legendaries that I think are undersold, and this one's no exception. So we're going to talk about each of these decks in turn. We're going to go through each deck, we're going to talk about them a little bit, and we're going to play around with them and see how it goes. So that's basically what we're up to. So the first one is Patrick Chapin's Healthy Impact. Patrick Chapin is a pretty famous MTG figure. We won't do the bio breakdowns, but nonetheless, this is a pretty fun deck and fairly solid Combre style list. So what we're doing here is we are taking advantage of two different cards that measure the health of your units, specifically Shard of the Spire, which whenever you play a unit, its strength and health becomes the higher of the two. So Shard will equalize each of your units with basically any strength lower than health, which gives you a lot more stats for each unit that you are playing. And the other one is Accelerated Impact, which gives you units gives your units +1/+1 and allows them to deal their health and battle damage instead of their strength each turn, which is a very common like sort of magic type ability that is also just really fun for swapping around your dudes and making scary things happen. There's one other card that you can use to swap health and attack, that is Scare, but that's in Shadow, and this deck is primarily Combre. So what we're going to be looking at is sort of the big, sort of beefy threats with a lot of health on them. That includes Minotaur Grunt, the 1/3, Oryx Sentry, the 1/5, Copperhull Shieldman, the 0/7, Dune Phantom, the 0/6 Ambush, Karmic Guardian, the 1/4 Flying Lifesteal Endurance, which was just a devastating card in, I think, the initial run. In the early beta, this card was just really strong, and it's since been outshone a little bit, but man, it's a pretty strong card. And then Amelie Cloud Marshal, our new extremely awesome engine, who is sort of basically setting up the rest of the deck. We've also got World Bear Behemoth. This deck has 6 engines, which is pretty cool, and Reinhardt Hunt Pack. Now, all of that is pretty cool stuff, and the main thing that's really interesting about this deck is that we do have these ambush threats, which combined with Shard of the Spire can be really scary. If you have a Shard of the Spire down and you ambush a Dune Phantom, you get a 6/6 flyer for 3, which is certainly pretty crazy, but you also get to take out one of your opponent's units, and that's just a lot of fun. We also have Reinhardt Hunt Pack, which is another great warp card that is going to be a little bit harder to play with, I would say, but if you can actually get the 7 for it, this is one of the biggest statted units in the game, Shard of the Spire or no. So most of these units can duke it out on their own, or at least hold down the fort in a way that's actually going to be meaningful. Cards like Karmic Guardian and Oryx Sentry are a little bit less capable on their own, but Oryx Sentry will get you continued war cries to buff up cards like Karmic Guardian, and a big Karmic Guardian is a game ender. These cards are pretty hard to remove, and they get you a lot of life. They stabilize you against aggro decks. They're basically just a ton of fun. If I was going to do swaps on this deck, we'd probably cut the teleports. We'd probably look at maybe getting rid of some of the Karmic Guardians or maybe some of the Shield Mans, because Shield Man, while a really, really fun Shard of the Spire card, is not that powerful on its own, and I kind of like all of these cards to have a little bit of a threat on their own. And since we have Dune Phantom, there's a little bit of recursion type stuff there. But the balance overall is actually looking fairly strong. And I think this is a basically pretty solid, just a fun little rank deck. We're going to see if we can play a game with it and win it. And that's basically going to be the theme of tonight. So here we go. Let's see if we can play around with Healthy Impact just as is. And then we'll see what kind of changes we might want to make to it. How you doing, chat? We got Cumbre Banner, we got Justice Sigil, we got Amber Waystone, we got Emerald Waystone. Talir's Favored is pretty cool, and there is a Shard of the Spire right in the opening hand, and that looks like a pretty good start, honestly. Talir's Favored will get us up to Shard, and then we'll basically have to draw threats. So we don't have anything... That's the one risk to this hand, is that we don't have anything immediately great inside our deck, but I think overall the balance looks strong here, so let's go ahead and roll it. Here's Cumbre Banner 1, and Talir's Favored will get us a little bit of time, so we can play our Justice, we can wait on our Waystones for as long as we need to. This deck does run seats, so there might be some advantage to keeping a Justice Sigil around just to have undepleted power, but I'll always have these Waystones, so I don't think it's going to be a big deal. Alright, and we got immediately a 4/4 Hellhound, which is going to be a bit of a problem for us. Let's go ahead and play Minotaur Grunt down. And that way, if he plays his Hellhound to rush, I can at least get some War Cries out, and then we can play Talir's Favored as a blocker. We'll be trying to stabilize later with Amber Waystone and with our general Justice feel, so that's going to be pretty important. There's Talir's Favored. And we'll play that Justice Sigil on time. If I can play a Justice before my Emerald Waystone, then I can use Hammer of Authority to kill the 4/4 and not have any major problems with it, which could be a lot of fun. I don't think there's anything crazy causing me to need Talir's Favor on the board. It is kind of good with Accelerated Impact, so we'll probably leave it for one turn. And what's Nihil doing? Playing out all of his cards for sure. Okay, there's a Millie. That's a card that I'm definitely pretty happy to see. So first things first, Shard of the Spire. Second things second, we have to consider if we want to leave Minotaur Grunt back to deal with this Bladekin Apprentice. I think the answer is yes. It's probably going to be a good idea to try and draw some removal away, and in general I want to be pretty proactive here. Alright, so there's a 4/4 on its own. We'll just block with the 0/2 this time. And this deck's entirely in red, so it's not going to have a good answer to a Millie Cloud Marshal coming down. I think that's probably just what we're going to do. Gain 2 life. Oh, whoops. I messed that up. Auric Sentry holds the fort, but so does Hammer of Authority, and I kind of really want to kill this 4/4. Maybe I'll Auric Sentry and just stay defensive for another turn. I stand ready. I kind of like this route because we get a 5/5 Endurance and like take advantage of Shard of the Spire while it's out. We also get to just spar with that 4/4, which is something I really, really want to do. Got to play Emerald Waystone, though, to set up the Cloud Marshal. So, rough times, rough times. Oh, goodness. I'm going to need some water after this game. Throat's a little bit gunky. Alright, Warcry Charge. You want to trade directly with my Auric Sentry. I think I'm kind of down with that. That should be fine. There you go. All good.
Happy hour is over.
Now, Praxis Outlaw trades with a bunch of stuff, but what we're going to do here is we're going to play a Millie.
Onward to glory!
Which is going to be he's just going to be a 9/9 in the air, so that should be fine. I think that'll be good. Should be fine. Should be okay. Alright, Katana gives him a pretty solid quick draw. Now he can attack in and actually potentially, I don't know, double torch a Millie?
Always bring a knife to a gunfight.
I don't see that happening anytime soon, though. So let's go ahead and just swing in for 9. We get a free Valkyrie blocker, which is pretty important. And yeah, we'll leverage our ridiculousness. Shieldman plus Talir's Favored. Turns out this deck is very good against aggro. This is actually something we knew. It's just got a really good curve of 2 and 3 drops, and also like the 5 drops are really good like on defense. So as aggressive as you can get with it, we can still go trade, 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 take 4. And then I got Hammer Authority to follow up, so I think we're in pretty good shape. Oh yeah, bully for us. So there you go, Shard of the Spire making $1 million bucks. Super solid. That's the kind of first win of the day that we want. So yeah, as far as the deck goes, I think it's pretty strong. It's probably gonna have a very strong presence. The question is gonna be more how it matches up against the other decks in the set, as opposed to how it matches up against like the current ranked pool at large. But this is a deck that I'd actually play. Like we would probably cut, as I said, I'd probably cut the Shield Mans out, even though they are really strong with Shard and with Accelerated Impact. But like keeping the Reiner Cutmans, upping the World Bear Behemoths, go like a little bit deeper into the 5s maybe. Or maybe just get some early 2-drops as well. Play a little bit less to theme just because the theme is so very dependent on either Shard of the Spire or Accelerated Impact. But, oh yeah, maybe just Talon and Ostrix in there, something like that. A little bit of removal. Either way, I think this deck's actually in a pretty strong place. We up the Vanquishes, we maybe up the Talons, and we down the Copperhull Shieldmans. And then Karmic Guardian could probably stay, Archive Curator's probably fine. Most of this is actually looking like a pretty solid rank deck, which is sort of what you want out of a good precon. I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, that's Chapin's Healthy Impact. Okay, so this is LSV's Party Song, which we have just crafted at rather great expense because of those Jotun Burst songs. This card is a card that I'm not sure I'm super psyched about, but it is actually pretty strong. Like, as far as things go, this is a little bit like a lesser Channel the Tempest. It gets you a small bonus plus a bunch of draws, and sort of that type of support is actually pretty underrated, I would say. It's not a fast spell, so that's not great, but overall it does do most of what you want it to do, and I think you can actually get some stuff out of this card that could be very useful. In particular, this deck is all about just basically flooding the board with Yetis and then taking advantage of that using cards like Iceberg Warchief, Thudrock, Arctic Artisan, and Slushdumper, all of which will definitely just make a pile of Yetis into a very scary threat. You've also got Yeti Furflinger, which is kind of a cute defensive, overly statted unit that can actually do a couple of interesting things. We got Wump Party Starter, who is like sort of the key card in the deck. That one really ties the whole deck together. We have Cinder Yetis, which I would recommend increasing in number, but one of the things that's kind of interesting about this particular Party Song deck is that it is not actually a blue-red primary. And this is actually something that I think Eternal deck builders tend to really fall into the trap of a lot, is they build these decks that are 2 colors, and then they tend to build them very evenly between the 2 colors. Oftentimes what you're really wanting to do is just sort of cover a particular weakness with your splash. So in this case, like what Cinder Yeti, Ruincrawler Yeti, and Yeti Sage are all doing is sort of just adding a little bit of something that blue can't do. Cinder Yeti gets rid of a blocker, Ruincrawler Yeti gets rid of attachments, and Yeti Sage does something, basically just makes your spells cheaper, which is certainly not unreasonable for cards like Snow Pelting and Eilyn's Intervention and Jotun Burst Song. I haven't really played with Yeti Sage much, but this is potentially something that we can actually work with. It is actually pretty good with Iceberg Warchief and Wump, so Yeti Sage might actually see a little bit of interesting play here. Overall, I'd probably end up cutting this for the Cinder Yetis if I'm going to upgrade this deck at all, but I think it's kind of interesting. Scouting Party, of course, plays out with Wump extremely well. That combo has been good since the dawn of time, and there's a pretty clear link between the 2 cards. We have Unseal to protect the Yetis. We have Snow Pelting to make the Yetis do a bunch of damage. Overall, this just looks like a pile of fun, and yeah, I think it's overall going to do a pretty decent amount. One thing you'll note here is that it's not actually... No, it's actually fairly aggressive. I was going to say it isn't, but with the Powdergliders and the Yeti Spies, you have 6 1-drops, you have a really sizable amount of 2-drops. This curve is just about right. You've got 8 2-drops, which is slightly less, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, no, that's right. You want around 12 2-drops, you want around 6 1-drops for a really aggro curve. And then with the 3s at like 6 or so, we also have some mid-range stuff that we can pull into. Overall, this looks like a pretty solid curve, and I'd say that that's a very good way to build a deck. So if we were going to cut some things, we'd mostly replace them with cards that cost about the same. Yeah, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. I love the Common Cause in here. That's another thing that's actually really good. This deck is quite capable of generating red despite not having any red sigils, so that's really, really fun. What are my thoughts on running crests in mono faction lists? I think it's fine as long as you're not worried about playing cards on time. Like, basically, yeah, it should be actually pretty good. Okay, so let's go ahead and play. Alright, Firebird 67. So we got Seat, Crest, Primal, Slushdumper, Jotunberg Song, Yeti, Snowslinger, and Wump. And overall, I think that looks pretty good. Snowslinger's a good 2, Wump's a good 3, and then Slushdumper's a good 4, although the 3 don't work in tandem with each other terribly well. Snowslinger should probably just either get murdered or get across over a weaker blocker, so I think that there's going to be some value here, and I'm kind of interested in seeing how it plays out. I also like that I can play this Crest of Fury and immediately start scouting for things that I need. This is a deck that really wants to go first, but not going first isn't the end of the world. Hey, Yeti Spy. Okay. So, that's a little unfortunate, because I would really like to play Wump before Yeti Spy, but that's... Yeah, no, that actually should be fine. We'll play Snowslinger, we'll play Wump, and then we'll play Snowslinger, Yeti Spy. And if nothing gets across, we can always slush dump at 8 and get a really, really big pile of cards across. Alright, what do we got?
It's all your fault.
Alright, Piercing Grief means that we're safe from any immediate threats. This is going to be the Echo time stuff. It will have access to Slay, so Wump may not get across, but we should be able to stick a couple of units and probably get them across for damage. So there's 1 plus 3 plus a snowball, which is another 1 point of damage. Yetis can really push damage very, very quickly. When do I think I'll do more Mono Primal Theory and testing? I'm not sure. We might talk about it tomorrow, or we might talk about it tonight after we finish off our whole setup with the 9 decks. I'm going through 9 decks, though, so I'm guessing I'm not going to finish in 3 hours. We'll see. Ranked games do tend to go a lot faster than draft games. We're only playing 1 game with each for the moment. Or we might play to 1 win with each. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Okay, so that's actually really good. It means that he probably doesn't have an answer to Wump. He might have an Annihilate here, but if he doesn't, then we just get to get another Snowball, draw a card, set up a pretty good Slushdumper. Yeah, Wanted Poster is definitely not the card that we're worried about. So here we go. Snowslinger. There's a pretty strong case for Iceberg Mason, actually. But I just want to, like, basically throw all my snowballs and get all my damage in. Alright. So that's pretty good. Now we're pushing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we get Harsh Rolled. So the question is, do I want to play the Iceberg Mason before I get Harsh Ruled, or after? Alright, we see a Slay there, so he gets his Wanted Poster draw. That's probably going to fix him for power. It would have been nice if we could have destroyed that Wanted Poster ahead of time, Ruincrawler Yeti, or something along those lines to fix for us, but we didn't get that lucky, and that's really okay. Okay, he did not play his... Harsh Roll. So I think I'll probably go for Slushdumper here, since that pushes a good 3 or 4 damage extra, 6 plus another 4. Slay. That's probably lethal off Slushdumper if Slushdumper doesn't die immediately. There's a pretty strong case for Iceberg Mason into Powderglider as well. Since I've got double snowballs. Sure, we'll do that. And I like this route because it just gives me more Yeti on my deck, which means that if I get a Harsh Roll, I just keep playing Yeti. But he's got a lot to do here, and I think he's going to get kind of wrecked. Do I have a stream schedule? Yeah, my stream schedule right now is Monday through Wednesday, 6 p.m. PST to 9 p.m. PST. Sometimes we play a little longer. And then I also have Friday, 6 p.m. through 9 p.m. PST. Today, or this week, we are going to be playing Thursday as well because it's the launch of the event, so I want to be there to not miss it. And we might skip Friday as a result, but more likely we'll be playing all 5 days. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, we do day off streams. We play games that are an Eternal. We do other fun stuff. Sometimes we do Deck Doctor streams, or we do tournaments. There's a lot of different things that can happen on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's pretty much totally random when or if I stream. But if I do, it can be all sorts of things. Okay, so Scarred Banner here. He got his power. I actually didn't see what he activated, but I'm pretty sure it was like a Seek power or something along those lines. Let's go... I think Snowball Face gets me an extra 4 damage, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's pretty strong. And these snowballs aren't going to be going to extreme effect, so sure. Swing with everything. I don't like that I'm not pushing for lethal, but Slushdumper would be too much in a potential harsh rule board. And anything that isn't harsh rule, we just permafrost our way around, so we don't play Slushdumper here.
Make each bullet count.
Yep, that's to be expected. Pretty easy permafrost here. And that'll be lethal. Yeah, monoprimal Yetis can get a lot done, and if you're looking for another monoprimal shell, this is actually something that you can use. The red here is almost entirely optional, and you can cut it all out if you want to do something cool with monoprimal Yetis. Pretty solid stuff. Okay. Well, that deck was great. Let's do the next one. All right, so that one's going to be very, very aggressive. I think that overall it'll have a harder time against Chapin's Accelerated Impact deck because that deck is going to be playing a lot of solid blockers. And I think that all of the decks that are designed are not very cheaty, or rather when they are cheaty, they're cheating in ways that they're very, very carefully designed to actually have a lot of early game play. So as a result, the Yetis aren't going to be able to take as big of an advantage of this type of setup. And you're going to have to rely on those Jotun songs to sort of get you across because you're not going to win the early game against things like Chapin's Healthy Impact. But yeah, super aggressive deck, and that's pretty cool. So I think we will go ahead and see what's up next. Oh, Conley's Unstable Mind. Yeah, we've definitely been playing with decks like this for a while. All right, here we go. Okay, so this is Conley's Unstable Mind. This is a Mind Link deck, and it's one that does things in Elysian. We were just playing around with a film version of this deck, and that was pretty fun, but actually I think that Elysian is a much stronger setup. There are a lot more transform effects of kind of interest there, or rather, you've got some sort of solid fillers, and then you can actually do some cool things with Sursa the Great Glutton in particular. Film has access to more transforms, but the time version of the deck is more stable and more capable of actually pulling across, so, you know, it will probably end the game at an appropriate time as opposed to having like a ridiculous time. So, key thing to note about this deck is it is actually like pulling a lot of our favorite combos. I think we've talked about several of these combos before, but let's go ahead and go through them. Magus of the Mist combined with Unstable Form is a really, really sweet piece of tech. So when you Unstable Form Magus of the Mist, it turns into a unit that does not have the ability to basically, it's no longer chained to the Illusionary Dragon. So if you play Magus of the Mist, Unstable Form Magus of the Mist, and your opponent is tapped out for power, then they do not get to kill your Magus and drag your dragon back, which means that you get basically 2 6-drops, one of which is a 6/6 flyer and the other which is a random unit of your choice. And that's really, really strong all on its own. Another really, really fun one is Northwind Herald. This is actually like, this was one of the first decks that we really were very, very fond of. I think this was the deck that I took up to like 2nd Master, or rather it was 2nd Diamond. because there was no master in the very, very closed beta. But yeah, like Northwind Herald is just a really, really fun one, and fun stable decks basically play Northwind Herald for cheap, then turn him into a very, very scary 7-drop, of which there are many and varied threats. I think there might be some new 7-drops that we can actually play around with, so hopefully we'll get a chance to play Northwind Herald out, but this deck is not going super hard for the combo, so it's just going to be incidental if Northwind Herald gets played. However, he is going to have to be answered every time that he's played, and that's going to be pretty important as far as strength goes. Deranged Dinomancer transforms units into 5/5 Carnosaurs, which turns some of our weaker units into actual threats, but also allows us to transform our opponent's stuff so we can play ourselves some 4/4 dinosaurs, which is a good way to downgrade our opponent's units while playing units to match them. Overall, you can't hope to do better than match them, though, when doing offense, so I wouldn't be super keen on that. It does actually morph a unit into a larger unit so that you can regression that unit, which is something that is somewhat important for the whole unstable Mind Link format, but this card is probably one of the weaker cards and one of the ones that I'd look to first remove if we actually started making some mild tweaks to the deck. Still, this looks like a pretty strong list overall. Like, everything's put together pretty well. We got Yeti Pult to draw some extra cards. We got the Polymorphs, which are always really strong. Regressions in here. I don't see Rain of Frogs, and I feel like I should really be seeing Rain of Frogs in any Mind Link deck, so that's probably the cut that I'd make. Deranged Dinomancer for Rain of Frogs, and see how that goes. Regardless, let's play a couple of rounds with it and see how it goes. Or we'll just play one round with it. We'll see. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this one because this is clearly one that somebody's been like, this is a Mind Link deck that somebody has been working on for a while, as opposed to, I really wanted to build a Mind Link deck, so I built it in a day. So as a result, we might actually see some stuff. Is this doctoring? Not quite. We're looking at developer decks. Tomorrow is an event where you get to play these decks. So we're going to look over each of them, discuss the strategies behind them, talk about maybe where they're good and where they're not, but mostly just have some fun with them. So here we go. This seems like a reasonable keep early. Deranged Dinomancer is not amazing. I do like getting up to extra power. Wow, what does this deck do in the late game? I think you're really looking for Mind Link, so maybe we actually do mill this, and I don't know why I didn't get a timer there, but alright, sure. Crest of Fury. Cool. And we'll just Crest of Wisdom. We can hopefully find ourselves a power that we can play to strategize our Trailmaker. Archive Curator. Nope, looking for power. Okay, so I have a lot of good transform effects, and that's going to be pretty key. These are like pseudo removal spells that are actually going to make it very, very hard for our opponent to do stuff, and we can use them to do things like morph the Trailmaker into a threat or do other scary stuff. But I am going to need a little bit more in terms of what this deck is doing before I can actually get things going. We don't find a power here. I think we strategize for it. Playing the Trailmaker is pretty risky into a Skycrag deck, because Skycrag's just going to have all the answers it needs. And one of the really nice things about playing Strategize in an unstable form deck is that Echo cards come as basically half cards, so they're really easy to bury and get a lot of card advantage out of. Alright, there's a Crest of Wisdom. And a Time Sigil I will take. Okay, so now I can do things like play Mind Links, which are the most important things. I can play Trailmakers as well, but I feel like Mind Link is probably my next 2 turns if my opponent's not going to do anything, so we should have a pretty fun time. Seal testing's working good so far, JT Jag. We've actually won with each of the decks that we've played so far. Oh, hey, and I think this guy's playing LSV's Party Song, so that's something. Do I want to morph that? Turning it into a non-Yeti could be good, but a 3-drop could be scarier than a Yeti Sage by a pretty large margin. On the other hand, if he plays a Wump or something, then that deals 4 damage to me? I don't know. I guess I kind of like getting my own 3-drop and also spending my power efficiently, so sure, let's try it. Ooh, torch your own unit. I love it. Oh, that's totally wrong, I think. And I'm very, very glad that happened. He gets a Trail Stories, though, so we are going to potentially see a faster Jotun Burst Song for 6. And that's something I do have to worry about. Man, if he just torches his own units, though, this is going to be an easy game. How competitive do I think this Mind Link Oh, God. Okay. Alright, I see why you did it that way then. Well, shoot. Shall I unstable form a 2-drop? Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Tell me, what do you see?
Kothan allows me to block these guys, which is really, really good. I'll unstable form another one.
It's written right here.
Nice. Temple Scribe also allows us to block these guys and draw power if I need it. I think Kothan makes the most sense, but Temple Scribe's pretty good too.
Tell me, what
We'll
do
play
you
Kothan
see?
here. Okay. So I really want to get these other mind links online, but I'm okay with my current situation where basically... Okay, he's drawing 2 cards, and he's got a reasonable amount of Yetis. Not a great time. He can also activate that Kothan, which I really don't love. We might need to polymorph that and just play the frog. It'd be really nice to get a power here so that I could do that. Okay. The more mind links I have, the more frogs I can play. Let's Temple Scribe here. Not good. Really not good. He actually can play that owl, and I'll have to polymorph the owl instead of the Kothan, which I don't love. He's gonna get some scouts. He found the Yeti Pult too? Okay. Alright, everything's terrible. For the moment. Do I have Lightning Storms in this deck? I don't think I do. So polymorphing the Yeti Pult gets us a mild answer. Surso would allow us to balance out some pigs. If I polymorph the Fearless Yeti, Yeti Pult gets to exhaust and draw a bunch of cards. That doesn't work. And we gotta go for the frog here. This is a bad defense, but it's the best defense I got. And I don't have time to set up these mind links, so...
Take wing, my friend.
The event deck's not playing Torch? That's correct. Yeah, this is looking like a more straightforward Skycrag Yetis, so... Alright. This is about how I expect the matchup versus LSV's Verse Song to go as well. This is a more aggressive Yeti deck for sure, and that's kind of a problem, but the Mind Link deck in general is going to need to take time to set up, and we don't have a lot of stuff to do that. So, yeah, adding in some ways to set up and actually get yourself a little bit of time is definitely pretty strong in this deck. You could do even like something as simple as Scaly Gruin, but Lightning Storm or something along those lines is really more important because you're already regressing your opponent's units down, so that's something to consider. Nonetheless, if you can actually get like those Lumen Defenders down to stabilize, that'd be a pretty good help. So I think this deck's got a chance, but it'll probably be one of the weaker lists in the whole setup. So, or at least to the aggro lists. If there are enough bad tempo decks in there, like Dev's Knucklebones is going to be a little bit slow, there's a couple of others that are going to be a little bit slow, then you might be able to get that Mind Link advantage out and actually do some stuff. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through here, so that one is actually probably on my list as like one of the lower power ones. Nonetheless, it's got some cool stuff.